but I was completely shocked when Wake Forest went down to Louisville.
Yeah.
Sam Hartman, I have been, what a great story. He comes back. He's having a great season. Wake Forest has put themselves on the map. They play a really good game against Clemson. The entire ACC took a hit this week, and Wake
Yes.
Forest was a big part of that conversation. They lose to Louisville. And Louisville's been one of those teams that have had probably more peaks and valleys than maybe any other squad. Maybe the uh, other ACC loss with Notre Dame beating Cuse, they might have more peaks and valleys. But Louisville, I mean, the way they won the football game is the scariest part. They forced 8 turnovers on Wake Forest. This is a football team who we thought we could see possibly in the ACC championship. And that still hasn't really gone away based on what everything else happened in the conference. But man, Steve, this was a really tough game to watch. Louisville put the game on. Their defense showed up. They looked great, but Sam Hartman threw 3 interceptions, just like we've seen with some other top quarterbacks this week, throwing a lot of interceptions. We just didn't see some good work. Malik Cunningham, he didn't really have to do much. I mean, he only threw for like 160 yards. He just they didn't have to do much for this team. This offense didn't really have to do much. The defense really won the football game for them. It was 100%. I mean, there was 1 turnover by Louisville. There was 8 by Wake Forest. If you have a +7 turnover differential, you're going to win this game. And they won this game mightily. They won by 27 points against the number 10 team in the nation. I mean, incredible.
And it's not like Wake Forest was one of those, well, why are they number 10? Wake Forest climbed their way through the standings, and they showed why they were number 10.
Yeah. I mean, this is a team before Saturday who the only loss they had was to overtime to the Clemson Tigers.
Yeah. And Hartman, I mean, for me, Hartman is until this game would have been in the talk for the Heisman finalist. I mean, he's had just a great year coming back from an injury. And a pretty serious, it was a blood clot kind of a situation. So it's not like it was just, he hurt his shoulder. I mean, theoretically, when you have that kind of clot in that area, that could be life threatening if you let it go. So, it was a great story with Wake Forest, but Louisville just had an answer for anything Wake Forest tried. I mean, it's great for a program like Louisville. It's bad for the ACC and any of its hopes.
Yeah.
Trying to get, a New Year's Six, as many, considerations for those higher bowls as possible. But
I think no other team experienced a worse bye week than the Clemson Tigers this week. Yeah. Because of the loss by Wake Forest, because the loss by Syracuse. I mean, it was a tough week for the ACC. Syracuse goes down. Now Notre Dame heads into Clemson. So that's a whole different ball game now. When you look at this Wake Forest, though, here, let's end off this conversation on the Deacons real fast. They have a tough rest of the year. They've already got their 6th win. They've won a bowl, great, but we thought this was going to be a completely different football team, right? Mm-hmm. Well, now this looks completely different. They play NC State, who have their troubles of their own. Obviously, a second-string quarterback finishing the season for them with Leary being down. But then they take on North Carolina, who looks like will be the winner of the Coastal. Well, at least there's the thoughts that will happen, right? The possibility right now, as it sits right now, Clemson UNC ACC final. So Wake Forest has to go against NC State, UNC, then Syracuse, who just lost to Notre Dame, but we've seen them be good, and then finish the season against Duke. I mean, there's a scenario where Wake Forest goes 6-6 this year.
Yes.
Which is wild after what we've seen. I mean, after watching that game against Clemson, where Sam Hartman broke the school record and went absolutely wild, and I mean, honestly, was seconds away, a play away from winning that football game. Now talking about they might be a possibly 6-6 football team and getting a low-level bowl game in the ACC, pretty insane. I'm really going to be paying attention to this Wake Forest NC State game. I want to see if Wake Forest can make a comeback and rebound. I believe in Sam Hartman. Yes. I don't really believe too much in NC State right now either, based on what we saw this past week. They found a way to win the football game, but not, and it was against Virginia Tech, and it was not very pretty. So Wake Forest, obviously a better competition. I mean, even with probably 8 turnovers. So a lot to unpack for the ACC this week. Wake Forest is one of those teams that you got to pay attention to.